we'll get started with our wonderful Gianni Storm. Gianni, you wanted to talk about the tragic story of DMX. Is this truth? Is this
Yes.
lies or shenanigans?
This is unfortunately true. The 50-year-old superstar Earl Simmons, most widely known as DMX, was transported to a hospital in New York this past Friday. He was described by sources as having some brain activity and he's in a vegetative state. Drug abuse has been a theme throughout DMX's life since he was given a laced blunt at the age of 14. He revealed on People's Party in November 2020. He was previously hospitalized for facing a near-death experience, which was from drug overdose. From drug overdose in 2016. So, Neo, do you mind playing the video of him explaining
Absolutely.
the reason for his drug
Freddie
abuse?
Ron, I mean, he was like an older brother to me, and he would rap, and I would do the beatbox. I looked up to him like an older brother. You know what I'm saying? I love this guy like an older brother. You know, I don't have any brothers.
So in 2019, following his release from prison, DMX voluntarily entered substance abuse treatment. Since then, he has been spending time with his children. He's been appearing on talk shows like Wendy Williams' show. The sudden health crisis DMX is facing shook his fans, his family, and the hip hop community. So this past weekend, a large vigil was held outside of his hospital, the hospital that he's staying at. As of now, the prognosis isn't great, and DMX is still on life support. So many people in hip hop have been speaking out about this, but specifically, Funk Master Flex made a comment that has been causing a stir within the community. His comments on how rappers and artists never receive the support and the flowers they deserve when they are alive. So, my question to the panel, do you believe that music industry artists need more support from their peers?
Let's start with Robbie Rock since he's our music industry expert.
Expert. I like that. I really feel bad for Mr. Simmons for DMX. It's his family. It's a tragic story. Um, whether or not artists need more support from their peers, it's a very cutthroat kind of industry. So unfortunately, people are going to try to one up you. They're going to do what they can to compete with you. But what I can't stand, and I know we talked about this recently with Lakeith and Charlemagne, the
Lakeith
God, where
Stanfield,
it's just like
Charlemagne the God.
if you have no if you have no love, if you have no respect for one another, stop throwing shade, because I'm sure that in the industry there is somebody that you kind of look up to. There is somebody that you respect. There is someone that you want to collaborate. Lift those people lift those people and stop spreading the hate. It's ultimately though, I think that the label had some level of responsibility to assist DMX with his substance abuse issues, but at the end of the day, that is his, and he needs to own that. He needs to be accountable for it. Um, the way that he came into drugs, or the way that he came into crack. I mean, that story is shitty, and unfortunately, it's not an original story. It is not an original story. I know many people who have had, their drug of choice tampered with. I've had someone slip me a joint that was laced with cocaine, and I lost about 16 hours of my life. It's a complete blank.
Hmm.
So that kind of stuff happens more often than people think. And the fact that it happened to a child, if that person is still alive, I mean, let's drum them up and let's, make an example of them. If this is someone who's in their 60s, someone who's in a position of trust, who essentially abused and corrupted a child, mind you, I mean, DMX took that pain and turned it into a professional music career. And who knows, without that pain, without that trauma, he may not have written those songs. It's self care. You are accountable to yourself. And I hope that his entourage wasn't filled with sycophants. It wasn't an echo chamber. I'm really hoping that within his entourage, he has someone of conscience who will challenge him when things aren't right. where it's like,
Mhm.
dude, you got to check yourself. Don't do this. Yeah, okay. Everyone else wants to do this because it's your money and it's a party, but this is a bad idea, and here's why. So I'm hoping he's got at least one or two of those people in his entourage, but it's I think it becomes very difficult when you reach that level of fame, but because there's a lot of people who are looking out for themselves and to ride your coattails.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to disagree with you slightly, Rob,
Yeah.
because you know I've never had cocaine or smoked a blunt or any of those things, but I recognize um, addiction is different for different people.
Mhm.
Everybody responds to drugs and addiction very differently um, from person to person. There are people that can do cocaine or crack and, brush it off. I mean, it's not easy necessarily, but they can do cocaine and crack and then be able to say, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do that ever again. And it's easy. There are other people, and they've shown it that there's some genetic um, predisposition for addiction.
Yeah.
So some people will get crack and they're hooked for life, and it's so hard to break. And that is, and that's matter of fact, that's one of the reasons I don't drink, smoke, do drugs or anything like that, because I feel like, having watched my family, that I have a predisposition for addiction. Um,
Mhm.
and so I say, okay, I'm just going to avoid those things. But if someone had ever slipped me something, I could imagine that I could have easily become addicted, similar to the way DMX did. I won't even take pain pills, pain medications. I won't take like Percocet and things like that. I say, I'm just going to work it out with some Advil, call it a day. But I'm just saying, I know, I just, I feel like, and he looks back, DMX himself was looking back as that moment, as that's the moment that I became addicted. And he's been in rehab several times and he hasn't been able to break the addiction.
Yeah.
So is he responsible? I think he's tried to take some responsibility by going to rehab, saying, I've got to get over this. But it's not. It is not an easy thing to fix. Absolutely not. So, should the music industry have done something different? I don't know. I mean, they always should do something different. You always got to help people. But the crazy thing is, a lot of the addiction is very prevalent in the music industry. So who's helping him? All the addicts? Who's looking? So, that's the only way they know to help him is by further creating addiction. But
That's a
Jose,
good point.
Um, I was reading articles about musicians and addictions and just musicians and peers, and the consensus is for an artist, they feel alone most of the time. They can have a million adoring fans, they can have all the friends and family. However, just because of the type of career that they're in, they feel very much isolated, very much alone. And like Robbie Rock said, it does come from the individual as well. If a person wants to get better, that's the first step, and then the
that is the
peers
first
can
step.
help,
Totally
and
agree with that.
then the friends, the family, and all of that. I think there's a huge lack in the music industry. I think it's too easy to get alcohol and drugs in the music industry, and shame on those managers, shame on those people that are managing these people, the artists, to facilitate some of this stuff and not say, no, you don't need this shit. You're good as is.
Hmm.
You don't need an escape. Let's deal with it. Let's move. Let's, get something going so that you don't have to depend on this crap because it's going to ruin you
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's
at
get
the
to
end of the
some.
day.
Okay. Go ahead. Oh, were you finished? I'm sorry if you weren't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to get to some of the comments online real quick because some of them, I know it's early, but so Gianni Storm, difficult topic, important to talk about. That's from Sherry Blaine Priest. Olivia says you can be drinking a cup of water and perpetuator comes, and yeah, I guess a perpetrator. I think she was saying, but
Mhm.
he was a baby when he was a kid. Do we speak to rape victims or abuse victims the same way? Almost like get over it. Sherry Blaine Priest says, unfortunately, the people we surround ourselves with, business, personal, can sometimes not be genuine. I know peers that have been introduced to substances unknowingly and the outcome is destructive. It is very important to surround yourself with people you trust.
Absolutely. If you're an entertainer, you are a
Right.
commodity. You are a good that the label owns. And if Robbie Rock makes it big and Robbie Rock is having a bad day and Robbie Rock has to play a sold out stadium that night, you better believe that the managers, the label, are going to do everything in their power to make sure that Rob's completely perked up by showtime. And if that means that they're going to be perhaps employing less than honest means to do that, it wouldn't be unheard of.
Jacqueline Robinson says, I remember when he asked Iyanla, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly,
Iyanla, Fix My Life.
Iyanla,
Yama.
to fix his life. It was devastating. He admitted at the time he would rather get high than work on repairing his relationship with his son. Saima says, totally agree. Those people should be held responsible. So, did you have any thoughts on that, Gianni? You didn't share your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts.
I mean, I kind of agree with everybody, basically. I think that you, of course, need to be held accountable for yourself. I think that there is a disconnect with people, and not to say that everybody has been through something. Everybody has a story to tell, right?
We do.
There are some
Mhm.
stories that we cannot relate to. There are some stories where people are 2-year-old living in crack houses being passed around. Like I know people like that. So I
Yeah.
can never really, as much as an empath as I am, I can never put myself in that experience. So I think with DMX, it's super, super sad, but his life is literally an example because from him, even though, like Rob said, that from his pain, he made these beautiful, songs that are anthems to everybody else. To him, they're his real life. And at the same time, he was struggling through those songs. He was still an addict, in and out of it. And he was surrounded by peers and people that um, added fuel to that fire. So I think that it's a good example for young rappers today, the young rappers and artists in general today, to really have that core group that really truly supports you and wants to see you win, not just in the music industry, but in life. And to keep yourself first. Like this whole podcast has been reminding me of like self-care. It's very much self-care based today.
Mhm.
So it's very self-care, but also keep your circle genuine and trustworthy. People that are going to tell you the truth, um, even if you don't like to hear it, and help you grow, help you grow to a better person that you are. So
Jose?
I'm so
I
sad
think
about
that's it,
DMX.
is to
Me too.
know who you can trust. I mean, for example, you have a girl like Britney Spears.
Mm.
That kid's been in TV forever, her dad managing her. Look where she is today. You know what I mean? We hear of that a lot where you think, hey, this is my dad. He's going to take care of me.
Right.
Yeah.
We've heard of that. Drew Barrymore as a young actor, drugs and
Yeah.
alcohol, very, very young. I think she was preteen. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, she's like
commodity.
13.
So, who do you trust?
So, Robbie,
You know, it's fine to say, find a peer, find that family. But when your family and peers are turning around and saying, hey, that person's making a lot of money for me, just keep on feeding them the shit. That's all. Who do you
That's
trust?
true.
So,
Cool.
so Robbie, I have a quick question for you. So, do you agree that some of the best songs come from pain?
I would say that some of the best creativity comes from the darkest pain. Absolutely. And that's something I always counter
Right.
evaluate. I always counter evaluate work with that, just as an artist. When you hear even happy songs, it could be an idea that this person thinks they can never attain
What
or
happiness
that they
is,
don't
what happiness
deserve.
should be.
What happiness should be, and this is my utopia, but I'll never have this. So you could be singing something and just dying on the inside. Absolutely. So I definitely agree with that. I think some of the most beautiful artwork,
Hmm.
the creative types tend to, it's the malaise of the creative, is what I like to call it. We're not quite right. And that's okay, because from that not quite rightness, we can create something beautiful.
Yeah. I took a little extra time on that, but I thought it was important. We had a good discussion on it. So, just one
Thank you.
quick comment online, real here. I see Jacqueline Robinson says, excellent point to Sherry Blaine Priest. Some entertainers surround themselves with people who tell them what they want to hear instead of what they need to hear.